can hear stuff okay. I'll just have a little bit of a jam, just drop some stuff in the chat. Wanted to just hang out for a little bit. Obviously I've got a gig tomorrow night. I guess that's not obvious, but I just wanted to jump on to say thank you to people for checking out my channel over the last year. And if we want to talk about anything, feel free to. If you want to suggest topics for future videos, or yeah, whatever, we can discuss whatever. Hey Jake, how you doing, bud? How's the set learning going? Can you hear everything okay, by the way? Right. I'm going to change the pitch of this down to B flat. -1. Okay. Hey Andres. Guitar's a lot of fun. Cheers, Yadiel. Is PR Puerto Rico? Where's PR? Cheers, Eric. Good question, Frank. At the moment, actually, I opted to use kind of channel switching amps live more so. So I did kind of let the California Tweed go. And so the Mark 525 is what I'm using live, or the Mesa Boogie Nomad. Today we've got a non-alcoholic Merlot. Tastes disgusting. Hope you're doing well. Hope things are good in Tennessee. Hey, Norway. Cool. Rhine X. This is an ice blue K-Line Springfield. And that's the sound of the Dumble maxed out in the fractal world. Yeah, keep the questions coming if you've got them. I'm happy to talk and answer them. I've never tried any Scuffum stuff, no, Michael. right, we've got more questions. Hey, Jackie, Jonathan, right? When it comes to learning something brand new, such as drop, two voicing, or triads, do you solely focus on moving that technique before moving on, or do you hop around? So I don't particularly stay super focused on any one thing. But if you've got like a thing that you're specifically trying to work on, so for a time there were these little things. So if I was that sort of stuff, cheers Frank, drive safe, or this sort of thing, where it's like it's a flat 9 voicing really. I was working on those for a while, and I'd have it written on like a whiteboard somewhere in the room that I wanted to work on that, so that it was like a constant reminder, because otherwise, yeah, I find myself being kind of a jumpy type of person. That's generally how I've tried to make myself remember how to do stuff. So if I was working on drop 2 voicings, I'd have that written somewhere in the room so that I would, for sure, constantly be reminding myself of it. It's sort of diminished, Liam, but it's also sort of not, because it's got the root in it. So it's like a dominant 7, flat 9. Damien Daff makes a good point about learning songs rather than scales. So if you had a concept that was like drop 2 stuff, then I would try and put it in the context of a song. Like, you know, if you were playing Autumn Leaves, you'd say, right, I'm going to try and just write out some, you know, like the whole song in drop 2 voicings, and maybe try and do some nice voice leading or whatever. That would be the sort of thing that I think is worth trying to do, to kind of focus in on it a bit. Yeah, so Hans, I'm sort of a legato player. So you're picking sort of string changes rather than every note. You know, that's like alternate picking stuff, or that's like legato stuff. So yeah, I'm more of a legato player than picking generally. So economy picking might also be a sort of way to think about how I switch between strings. So I'll generally be picking in the direction of the string change. Hey Jason, thank you for that. That sort of stuff. Yes, I'm using stock IR's Ampero World. I'm using the FM9, by the way. Someone asked if I'm using... No, I'm using the FM3, sorry, not the FM9. Hey, Tim. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Wadey. You know, that sort of thing where you're kind of picking the odd thing. If you watch the right hand, it's fairly inactive. But yeah, there's quite a lot of videos on the channel about legato stuff, if you're interested in that. And I guess if you're interested in someone teaching it properly, like Tom Quayle or David Beebe would be a good place to look. because those guys are good teachers. Oh, Clive, the reason is that Leanna's boss a few years ago, 5 or something years ago, died from alcoholism, and after that it didn't really feel very fun to drink alcohol anymore. So I drink non-alcoholic beer or wine because it's, well, I mean, this is awful, but sometimes it's not as awful as this. I don't know if anyone names that song, you win, or whatever I was sort of referencing there. Guthrie Govan tones. This is actually the Guthrie tone that I made for the FM3 that I'm playing through right now. Weirdly enough. Am I using a cornford in this then? Should be. Yeah. Actually not The Boys Are Back in Town, but on Live and Dangerous they did segue this song into The Boys Are Back in Town. Damien, are you asking which Sennheisers I'm into? I'm using Mass Drop HD58X. That's what I'm wearing, if you're interested. Time to buy the rolls. I think I'm okay in a Skoda. That's suits me better. Right, any other questions about anything? Just keep chatting about stuff. Harmony's new amp series that I see a lot recently. I've not actually heard of what even are Harmony amps. I'm presuming when you say that they're being shilled, that they're being featured a lot by paid demo people. Seems to be the thing these days. How do you practice arpeggios? Do you think arpeggios are more useful for soloing than scales? The answer to that, I think, is affirmatively no. But I think they can be a useful way to kind of highlight chord tones, and I do think they can be an interesting way to break up more predictable scale patterns and stuff. And I find myself doing you know, there are definitely arpeggios that creep into my playing all the time, especially if it's like jazz-based playing. As for how to practice arpeggios, I think taking 4-note arpeggios around the songs that you're playing are really good ideas. Or that sort of thing where you're playing the arpeggios in the scale. But not necessarily more useful than scales. It's kind of the same thing as well, if you think about it. Like the arpeggios belong to a scale. It's just that an arpeggio is slightly less information than a whole scale in a few ways. The idea, I could possibly do a video about all my guitars at some point. I can't do them right now. They live in a cupboard, so it wouldn't be particularly easy. But in the future, maybe. Greg Hadfield asks, John, you mentioned jazz playing quite often, but what about bass jazz playing? So that's not a thing that I do. Can someone translate Helder for me? I'm gonna guess he's either Brazilian or Portuguese. Something about delay and tap tempo. Oh, he's retracted it now. If I use tap tempo or subdivisions, when using delay. So generally what I do is set the left and right from, if I'm using the dual delay, 375 on one side and 500 on the other. I find that works quite well. If I'm doing something that's specifically rhythmic, like say the intro to Shut Up and Dance or something like that, then yes. Gary asks, very new to your channel, what's your story? Are you a teacher, a gigging musician, session guy? So gigging musician in some ways, that was my main thing until gigs kind of went away. I don't really teach too much, although I try and, because in certain YouTube videos I get people asking, what are you doing there? I think there was enough people that were asking that I've started to do some of that kind of stuff maybe a couple of years ago, and that's what the Patreon has enabled me to do a bit more. So that's how that has gone. At the moment, gigs are not super busy at the moment, and I'm okay with that, I guess, because luckily the online stuff has been quite good for me, as people like yourself have chosen to watch some of my stuff and join Patreon and all that stuff. So money's okay at the moment anyway, so I've not had to worry too much about that. Luckily, obviously that's not been the case for everyone. So at the moment I've got a gig tomorrow, and then I don't know when my next gig is after that. What have we got? But before COVID and stuff, I would have said a gigging musician. Now I'm not so sure. My next gig after that looks like it's not till April. Something like that. I don't know. Yeah, April. But yeah, so at the moment things are a little bit quiet diary-wise, but that's kind of okay for me, as it means that I can focus on some other things, like trying to get the YouTube thing going. Is it true that dropping fifths from voicings isn't a very big deal unless it's something like a diminished or augmented voicing? It's definitely true that almost no note is really essential in a voicing in real music. So I'm super like what would the word be? I think super open-minded to the idea that just use whatever voicing you can grab in the moment. And with the jazz and sort of stuff like that, that's mostly what I'm trying to do. Yeah. Another question somewhere. Someone said about Fractal or Neural DSP. I would go with Fractal any day of the week. The Neural DSP stuff is still got quite a long way to go to. Well, I don't think they'll ever really catch up with Fractal in a lot of ways, but yeah, I would go with that. Helder asked, do I always use a low repetition delay? No, I'd say often my feedback is fairly long, like 70% on the Helix. I like a fairly long tail, and the mix between sort of 20 and 24% generally. Hopefully that. Jackie asked, do I ever use an envelope filter or an auto wah sound? Not so much. It became kind of a bit of a cliche thing that gets instantly uses. It's kind of like John Mayer thing, right? Or to a lesser extent, Tom Misch. Miguel, I don't know, depending on where you are, you won't be able to get an FM9 for a while anyway. So if you could find an Axe FX3 used somewhere, I think those might be pretty good for a while. Favorite Strat style guitar I've ever played is this one, Mac. It's a K-line Springfield. I played a 64 Strat. I do my tabs, K, badly. Played a 64, and then what else? Jake has a really nice custom shop Strat. That's cool. And I've got that gold Strat. I really like that one. But yeah, this is like the top for me. Just talking about sound quality, how does the pod go fare against Boss GT1000 Core? I think in terms of pure data, I don't know, what's the Boss GT1000? What would the thing be? Dynamic range. It doesn't say. But in terms of like latency and things like that, I think the Boss GT1000 actually is better than any other device on the market. And they use 32-bit processing, which I think is higher than anyone else's. But I think their interface is tricky at best, and I don't actually think some of their models, or certainly their cabs, I don't think sound great for me. And yeah, I don't know, there's nothing really that I feel like it does super well. Emre Dogu says, is there any other way I can purchase your presets? PayPal doesn't work. You could just use like something on Bandcamp and then send me a message on there and I'll send them over. There's like pay what you want on Bandcamp stuff, so you could just try something from there. Oh, he's just linked there. Damien nails it. Yeah. Cowboy song. And then at the end of it, it goes... etc. Yeah, exactly. I think like the Boss, they've got a way bigger fish to fry, I think, than the GT1000. As a company, they've got plenty of other things. I feel like their core pedals are still more significant than their modelling stuff. But that's not to say that you can't get great tones out of it. I've seen the IR200 particularly, I kind of liked that when I tried that a little bit better than the GT1000 just because the interface was simpler. This has got a 10-inch radius and it's nitro. The nitro versus Polytalk. So I feel like, has anyone really ever tried the same guitar and done like a test to see, you know, if you finished the same guitar with poly or nitro, does it make a big difference? I'd be interested to know if people have done that, because no two guitars are the same anyway. So I think it's really difficult to be particularly objective about that and say, okay, this was the measured difference that happened between the nitro and poly on a guitar. It's just I don't know, I feel like it's a bit of a tricky subject. Sir and PRS, I think, use poly a lot, and I don't have any issue with that. This particular guitar is nitro, but I wouldn't ever not buy a guitar because it was finished in nitro and not, or you know, vice versa. I think it's probably one of those things that doesn't make a massive amount of difference. And I feel like nitro as an actual paint is probably not great because it does age very quickly, and you know that's the thing that we like, I think, as guitarists, and we like that it relics easily. But yeah, I don't know. Robert. So who is Robert Peary? Lord of the Kino asks, did I ever try a Kiesel? No, they're not very easy to come by in the UK. I think a few kind of YouTuber types have got deals with them. But yeah. John Ong asked, do I still like the AZ ES40? Is it worth buying? If you're looking for a pretty cheap guitar that is okay, I think it's worth buying. It was better than I expected. Do I listen to Josh Smith? I do not, but he's a cool player. I don't really listen to much blues, to be quite honest, but like Robin Ford I'd listen to a bit. Gary Moore I used to listen to loads. And Thin Lizzy, I guess they're kind of rock rather than blues. Liam asks, I notice you use your pinky to hit the fifth in certain power chords. Do I play power chords that much? I don't know. I feel like I'd be more likely to hit the ninth. Or if I'm playing a different sort of chord, then I might be using the pinky on the fifth. I'm not feeling like any of that is conscious though, particularly. Cheers, Mark. Thank you for the kind wishes. He claimed to be the first person to have reached the geographic North Pole. So it sounds like there was some controversy there, right? Right, I'm going to switch over to the HX Stomp because it wouldn't really be particularly me if I wasn't playing one. Any other questions about anything, just fire away. It's non-alcoholic wine, to the chap who asked earlier. Nothing exciting. Whee. Sort of stuff did I play when you were gigging when we could? So generally, I would suggest the same sort of thing that most of us who are gigging guitarists do, and the stuff that pays is like dodgy wedding gigs, basically, right? Also, I had a chap who fairly regularly comments on the channel, say yesterday he feels like the minority of guitarists play gigs. Are you, if you're in the comments right now, could you comment whether you ever play gigs or not? Because I feel like I'm talking to people assuming that a fair chunk of us are interested in gear because we're gigging it, but I might be totally wrong about that. Vlad Datku says, what would I improve, change on the QC? I personally couldn't improve it at all. I'm not an expert in anything. I think it'd be really good to have a looper. I think it would be really good if they managed to figure out how they're going to port things across from the plugins. I think that's basically an essential and should probably be moved pretty far up the list. How many Oasis songs have I played at gigs? Champagne Supernova, Don't Look Back in Anger, Wonderwall, and the She's Electric. I've done that one a few times, like 4 or 5. The scale that I gravitate towards, Simon, is the major scale. Gary's been gigging on and off since he was 20, 43 now. Buzz is not gigging, Cerebellum is not. But there's like, it's not a huge minority of you guys that are gigging, right? Tom is rocking the garage, home recording, which is cool. Not gigging anymore, but would like the option. But have gigged. Is that fair to say? Yeah. Lee plays 3 gigs a week. Eric says he's excited to see where the quad cortex is in a few years. Bill Shear says I play weekly but bass. I think that still counts, Bill. I won't be... This is a K-line strat. A dedicated IR block. How's that an improvement, though? I don't understand. Like, you can load IRs already. Has Paul done another video on the QC, has he? Has he done a recent video on it? When was the last time that he did something with it? I feel like he hasn't done anything with it since the original one. That was 10 months ago, isn't it? Anyway. But yeah, I don't know. It's less that the unit itself is deficient. It's more so that they made a big deal about what it'd be capable of. But you know, plenty of the other companies already do it. Why was the bassist unhappy? I find it funny when certain musicians that play in these, whatchamacallit, like function bands get sniffy about the kind of songs they're playing. It's a bit like, we're here just to have fun. Simon gigs 3 or 4 times a year. Anthony says non-alcoholic wine, that's like having no strings on your guitar. I don't disagree, but also it tastes terrible as well, which is... Right. Save a bit of processing power and make the UI just a little bit streamlined if you want to use your own IRs and not load a cab. Fair enough. Miguel, I don't really do private lessons. I didn't have guitar lessons, so I don't think I'm a particularly good teacher. Roma says it's a non-alcohol wine, taking the cheers back. Yeah, I said there's basically the reason I don't drink alcohol is Lenny's boss died of being an alcoholic a few years ago, and it kind of took the fun away from it. It's not like a moral thing or anything. Yeah, I feel like the Oasis stuff is great. Hi, John Harold. Hope you're doing well. Thomas Moore asks, how do you decide when to get rid of a guitar or a piece of gear? I tend to keep stuff. I think we mostly do as humans. I think hoarding is kind of a thing. not, well, hoarding sounds a bit unhealthy, but you know, to grab stuff. But yeah, try and make a list of the stuff that you've got. That's what I found most useful, actually, Thomas, sorry, in France, I believe. You've got a Blue Angel, haven't you? Do you still dig that amp? I think, yeah, make a list. So I had like a spreadsheet of the stuff that I've got. And yeah, I found that I could kind of put a monetary value next to the things, pieces of gear. And I looked at it and I thought, that's quite a lot of money that I've got tied up in stuff. And then I kind of just was honest with myself about, do I really think I'm going to use that piece of gear? And a lot of it was pedals. So I think it ended up being about £12,000 worth of pedals that I sold. And that included a quad cortex, I think. But like a lot of money. So that's one of the things that I think can really help. If you're looking to sell gear, that is, but you may not, you know, if you don't need to, then sometimes you might end up regretting some of those decisions. But I find that's a bit rare. Alvarez guitars, I hear good things about, but I'm not sure. I've never played one, so I can't give an opinion. How do you feel about the Sire S7 now you've had time with it? Assuming you still have it. I'm wondering if they are quite thin sounding pickups. I hear people say about thin. I think it's better to have, well, personally, I prefer to have that brightness there than dull pickups. To me, there's nothing particularly fancy about a dull sounding pickup. Especially if it's a single coil guitar, I like to have a bit of that brightness and that spank there. You can dial it back if you need to. So I've really rate the Sire guitars quite highly, especially for the money. Gary says, when you're out gigging, do you just take a few different guitars to a gig, or do you just take a Strat and make it work? So generally, I would take 2 Strats. Do I have a lick that I tend to do as soon as I pick up a guitar? I feel like this, that sort of thing. Generally, it'll be something on the B string. So and that I do all the time, Nico. That kind of thing. But I'd be fairly likely to do this kind of thing when I pick up a guitar. And I guess actually you see, if you watch any of my stuff on the channel, no coat, it's around somewhere, Chris. Sorry. So yeah, you see most of the time the kind of first or second take. So yeah. Yeah, I've got like a Tom and bag where I take 2 Strats in the same bag, just in case a string breaks, and you know it's going to take time to change over a string. So part of, I think, doing a job in a function band or a wedding band is being able to quickly grab another guitar and do that. So yeah. So let me just see if there. So John Herald asked about the upcoming Harley Benson DNA FX Pro. What is that going to be able to do? Is there anything that stands out about that versus like the Hotone Ampero or anything like that? Johnny Welk, hey, how you doing, bud? Asks, when am I getting another Truxton? There is one being built, Johnny, and it will be this colour. My thoughts on Strats and Jazz are, I like it. After breaking a string during a gig, I started bringing 2 guitars. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Should I get the Zoom G5N? I've never played any of the Zoom stuff. I feel like over in the western part of the world, the Zoom stuff doesn't really have a foothold. I think possibly in Asia, that's less of a thing. John says he's interested in seeing a Harley Benton DNA FX Pro versus Hotone Ampero 2 stomp comparison. See, I go. So, do you find yourself sweep picking over single strings sometimes, or right? Probably explain it. 2 or 3 notes on one string, one note. Yeah, definitely. That's what I mean when I talk about economy picking my legato stuff. So each time I change string, let me just, you'll see it's going in the direction of the string change. I prefer the pickups quite low. I don't know, I did try to show this the other day. They're sort of like, I don't know, 3 or 4 mil off. I think if you get them a little bit higher up, they start to sometimes pull on the strings a little bit, so lower down can be good, I think, personally. Not too low, but these are fairly low. Tom asks, have I had any Princetons or deluxe reverbs? Oh, output. Yeah, certainly low output pickups are what I go for. Sorry. These are Lola Dirty Blondes, which are super low output. Princetons or deluxe reverbs. I've had a Princeton 65, and that was fairly cool. A little bit one trick pony-ish. A little bit one trick pony-ish, I would say. What else? Deluxe reverb I've never played, but I'm thinking of trying to get one maybe, because that would be like an interesting thing. Connor liked the Eric Johnson inspired videos. I'm gonna have to go back to those at some point. Yeah, deluxe reverb is like 22 watts. I feel like that's sort of a sweet spot. I don't have the EJ Strat. No, sold that one. I did have one, you know, the ones with the hollow thing. I had one for a bit, but I didn't do a review of it for whatever reason. I don't know why. Yeah, I feel like the radius is a bit too flat for me. Sort of. Deluxe reverb. Have I tried the Silver Sky PRS? Yes, I have. There is videos of that on the channel. Let me link you to one. Silver Sky John Cordy. Yeah, there's like maybe 6 or 7 videos on the Silver Sky. I'm interested in that Silver Sky SE. No, I don't think it is not just the Lolas. There's like each of the K lines that I've got are pretty cool, and only this one has the Lola Dirty Blondes in them. But you know, I would encourage people to try one if they can, but I wouldn't necessarily because they're not super cheap or anything. They're cheap relative to like a custom shop, but if you see a used one, I'd try one maybe. Have I tried a headless instrument? Yeah, I had a Strandberg 8-string for a second, and what else did I try? The what's it called? The Harley Benton one, the Dullahan. That was fairly cool. I just don't quite get why you don't want a headstock on your instrument. I get maybe it's like a travel thing. Is that the thing? It's easier to fit it places. That's interesting. Johnny had a Highway 1 Strat with a lot of dirty bonds. Eamon, I was using the FM3 at the start, but I was doing different stuff as well. Personally, I use the melodic minor off of the like the relative. So say you were in B major, the relative minor would be G sharp minor. I use it over the D sharp. Cheers, Stephen. Happy New Year to you as well, when it comes. Yeah, the Vibrolux is well regarded. I think they're quite a lot expensive though. Yeah, it did take a lot of time to do those videos on the Eric Johnson stuff. Favorite FFFFR cab for gigging with modelers, just got to be the power cab for me. And I don't even use it as an FRFR. I feel like a tweeter is the enemy of good guitar tone. So I use that in LF raw mode. If I was going to be using an FRFR speaker, I'd try and find one that I could turn off the tweeter on if possible, I think. So Thomas, the Pod Go has twice the memory of the HX Stomp for presets, so I don't have to write over those. But on the HX Stomp, yeah, no, the HX Stomps go completely off. Have I tried any attenuators? Not really. I found that the amps that I use generally don't need them because they have master volumes. I did used to use an attenuator with a Marshall Blues Breaker, which I had for like a couple of months. But yeah, generally I don't find it that it's yeah, I don't know, not something that I particularly need. Right, sorry, there was another question that I didn't answer. How do I do videos? Basically, I get up in the morning, make a video, and just play guitar. That's what I do. That's why I'm able to make lots of videos. I'm not sure if it's something that people get quite annoyed at. It probably is, because there's quite a lot of videos and they're not really about anything, are they? But hopefully it's slightly better than it is bad, if that makes sense. That I'm not making the world a worse place by doing it. Headless guitars are supposed to have a tighter sound, less overtones when you hit the strings hard compared to a headed instrument. Okay. Otherwise, I think it's mostly just about wanting a compact, lighter instrument. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. It's a bit of a... Yeah, I feel like, for me, the Strat is pretty much the perfect guitar anyway. So to take the headstock off it, for me, is not a win. When I played the Strandberg, I felt like it was a bit like a Strat to an RG is like a step away from like a classic guitar, kind of. And then, you know, the Strandberg was continuing way down that road. Like an RG feels less like a guitar than a Strat in some ways. And then the old Strandberg is even less like that. There are some attenuators, depending on how many, an Ampeg V4, depending on how much the wattage is on that, some attenuators won't even cope with that anyway. John says, if we get back to live playing properly, what will I be aiming to do? So one of the things that I was doing that I kind of liked before things went weird, I was starting to do a few kind of solo guitar gigs, which were kind of fun, like just you know, me with a looper and trying to play music. That was quite fun. And also I started doing that stuff with Mark Kelly from Marillion, so I think the idea is to do some gigs with that at some point. I've got a duo with my wife where we do some stuff, and also we're in like a function band and play like weddings and bits and pieces like that, so that's kind of covers some of the live stuff. Oh, and I do like the occasional jazz gig here and there. So that's basically what my live goals are anyway. I'm not got any goals to do any kind of like solo stuff live, or like stuff under the name John Cordy. I don't think that would be particularly profitable. Have I used any two-note stuff? Yeah, I had the Captor X, and it's perfectly fine. I just think that Fractal, they sent me the load box, or G66 did. I think I prefer that. Have I worked on the 212 arpeggio like Tim Miller? Not anything like as thoroughly as Tim Miller, but I think it's a great idea. Mark asks, did I find anything interesting from my video about why do some people hate PRS? So it was interesting to me that there were quite a few people that were like, what are you talking about? No one hates PRS. And then there were people that are saying they're all plastically made, terrible instruments, overpriced and stuff. And I was like, well, guys, these are the people that I'm talking about. And then there was lots of rational people that just had super good reasons for not liking them. Like, you know, I don't get on with the neck shape, or I don't like the aesthetics. But I never found a particularly great reason for the kind of venomous attitude that a lot of people seem to have towards PRS. But I don't know, the jury's still out on that one a little bit. But yeah, it was interesting to get that response. Like, a lot of people were like, well, no, it's, what are you talking about? But I feel like it's definitely a thing, right? Because there's some videos that I've done with PRS guitars, and you get comments from people that are either super anti John Mayer or whatever. It's just interesting to me. It's just a bit of a weird situation. I think my wife really likes PRS guitars. She likes the way they look. I'm sort of on the fence about them generally. Someone asked about the Silver Sky. I think it's a really, really good guitar, and especially compared to something like a custom shop, like £1,000 less than an equivalent custom shop guitar. I think it's an incredibly well built guitar. I do think they look a little bit, in some ways, there's things that I don't love about it, but it's John Mayer's aesthetics in it. That's what he's chosen, but I think they're great. Of the guitarists I dislike, PRS is disproportionately represented. So is that you saying that all of the guitarists you like use PRS? Could be. Yeah, Siago's guitarist. So that was less of the reasoning that I was getting in the comments. I understand that Paul is one of those people. Christopher says guitars in general are overpriced. This is evident when you see the quality of a Sire guitar for the money. The thing that I worry about is that somewhere is someone getting paid less than they should be for the work, and that's generally my worry with some of this stuff. So as much as I can say, yeah, I think there's a load of great guitars coming out of that part of the world, I don't know for sure that people aren't getting exploited, which is a bit of a worry. Well, obviously, I'm sat here on a computer and a phone and stuff, but that's the thing that I think enables them to price these guitars at fairly low prices, right? I feel like there's something, someone's, well, a corner is being cut somewhere, and it's not the quality of the guitar, so it's a bit strange to me. So yeah, I don't know, I do worry about it a little bit. Exactly, John thinks that most of his missus' shoes are ugly, so we're even. Do you play PRS, John? The real question is, have I seen the new Spider-Man? I've not, but Jim, my best man, has, and he liked it. Thomas Moore, just got my PRS Fiore. It's well built and looks great. So well built, sorry. Awesome. I was interested in those guitars. Yeah. Yeah, cheap guitars, I think, are better than they've been for a long time. I think that could be true. But also, yeah, but Eric, if the other thing I find when you read about Gibson, there's loads of people really dislike Gibsons of pretty much all eras, except for the really old stuff. They get paid in exposure. So it's less so, like, I feel like Gibson have made some really funny choices. And Fender as well. Adam asks, have you ever tried using the Quad Cortex Live on a Zoom call at all? Heard it can be used as an interface, which would be handy if it works well like that. I don't think it works massively well as an interface but you should probably check on the Neural DSP forum. I think there were people that are having trouble in some cases. Yeah, but a Helix will do that, an HX Stomp will do that, a Podgo will do that, a Boss GT1000 will do that. Basically any of the models these days, except for the Kemper, can also be used as an interface. So, yeah. Gibson also owns Mesa Boogie now, truly a match made between two litigious companies. I like Mesa Boogie. Did I prefer the EJ Black Signature Strat, or what was the end of that? Yeah, I think hating all the I preferred the black Strat to that. Although the semi-hollow one was cool too. My video is done with audio and video at the same time. So I think there's a video showing my workflow, Thomas, on the channel. If you like Google workflow, Google YouTube it. Basically, I set the camera up and a click track, and then the clean part is what I start off with. Then I go back and kind of loop that around, and then put drums down. Sometimes don't put the drums down. Then solo will do whatever with that. So the audio comes from Reaper, and then in the video editing stuff, I put those back together, if that makes sense. Buzz says, very worry about exploitation myself. Lots to consider. What appears to be exploitation to us may be a godsend to someone else, or could be servitude. Exactly, we don't really know. But it's a bit difficult, isn't it? Can I do a video to sound like Tom Morello with the Helix? I'm sure someone else has done that, but I don't really know anything about Tom Morello's playing. The Ibanez RG8Z 870 QMZ would be very cool, yeah. Imran Khan found the Chapman's very useful for firewood. Aren't they made in the same place as the PRS SEs? So yeah, I am sort of interested in the PRS Silver Sky SE. I've asked if I could get my hands on one of those, so that hopefully might be a thing. Although I probably shouldn't have said that. But yeah. Yeah, they could be well compensated. I have no idea, but that's the thing. I don't know. Again, like the Jet Strat thing, I don't think it's even particularly clear where those are made. Did Mateus ever really leave, Johnny? I think, yeah, the Chapmans are made in the same place as, whatchamacallit, aren't they? Is it World Guitars that they made, the PRS ones? Ibanez RGTs are also great if you can find one of those. Would I ever do a shoegaze gig, or do I want to keep my hearing intact? I think I want to keep my hearing intact. Pixelot says, do you have a favourite Petrucci tune? My favourite stuff Petrucci did was with Dream Theater, so that. Imran Khan asks, is that vodka? No, it's non-alcoholic Merlot, and it's terrible. Bart has a Strat and wants another sound. I'd maybe consider something with some humbuckers, maybe. Chapman, was World Guitars, but you think they moved, Christopher? So that would have been, they were made in Korea, right? Glasgow Kiss, Iago sound, fair shout. I just prefer the actual Dream Theater songs, I think, for whatever reason. I've never tried noiseless singles. So Paco Rocker asks, what is my favourite amp ever? And I think the answer is the Mesa Boogie Nomad 45. I think. That's got a really awesome, I think it's my favourite lead channel. The clean channel's not super amazing when you could get it at home, but live is pretty cool. The reverb on it's not great, but it's my first proper Mesa Boogie amp. I really like it. So Liquid Tension Experiment, some of that was cool. Second note asks, does good for the money really mean good? It's a phrase you hear all the time. I wonder if it's better to save and get something properly great. So I feel like Desire guitars are just great guitars. So I tried to say, I think they're really great feeling guitars at any price point. So like that neck to me, that was why I've kind of mentioned those things. They just feel amazing. So I feel like they're really, really good guitars. The K-Line, again, is one of those guitars that I think is really good, but relatively that's a way more expensive guitar. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you don't necessarily want things to just be good for the money or, you know, good enough. Like I would say the Ibanez AZ ES40 is good for the money or okay for the money. Or better than I was expecting for the money, but I wouldn't say it's like a great guitar. The dude who endorses Sire, Larry Carlton. Yeah, it must be Larry Carlton, right? John Harold's been looking for noiseless singles, but the app says there's none in the area, which is nice. Fiore, yeah, I'm hearing people start to talk about those a bit more. I did try to get one to review, or I've asked if I could borrow one to review, but I think for me personally, I can't really justify buying one at the moment to review it because it's a bit tricky. Alan asks, have I used the Game Changer sustain pedal? Yes, I have. It's great. How does it compare to the Stomp Poly Sustain? It will roughly sound basically the same, I'd imagine. But it's got a nice action to it. And it also does the other thing which you can't do so much with the thing, where you can keep sustaining notes one after the other. But it basically sounds the same as an EHX freeze as well, if you've tried one of those, but it's in a nicer enclosure in a lot of ways. Yeah, Marcus Miller is, I've got a Sire bass. Yeah, those are, I just think they're really, really good guitars at any price. Or that's been generally my experience. Now, of course, the difficulty is anytime you pick up a guitar that's made in a factory, they're all slightly variable, right? As we know from Gibson, all that stuff. But my experience with the side guitars is generally they're very good guitars at any price, I felt like. How did I practice my legato? Every day. Yeah, Japanese Tokais. I haven't tried loads of them, but the Japanese ones that I've tried are amazing. The Chinese ones were basically like fine guitars. Lucas, I don't have the IR200 anymore. I sold it just before like Christmas. Zandization. How am I supposed to say that? Sire L7 versus Tokai Love Rock. If you're talking Japanese Tokai Love Rock, then I'd go for the Tokai. The Sire, though, is very nice playing guitar, and I think it sounds really cool. What am I saying? Fit and finish wise, it's like definitely not in the same league as the Japanese Tokai. I think playing wise, there's some things that I like about the Sire. Like the neck joint and stuff is really cool. The bass is full scale. What overdrive to pair with the MXR, Timmy? Thomas, I'd try the Boss OD3 maybe. That could be cool to try. A bit of a different vibe and not expensive. If you can find one of those cheap. Yeah, Tokais, I think probably their reputation is for making very consistent guitars. Christopher likes the Fishman Fluence pickups. Yeah, but Tony, it is your fault that I now have a Cornford Carrera in my house, and it's not yours. Timo, it'd be this would be my favourite scale for a solo. Cheers, Johnny. Speak to you in the new year, son. Greg, that's a good question. I feel like the freeze I don't have to worry about time, which is a bad thing actually, isn't it? So I should probably be playing with a looper more. Bart asks, would I recommend passing the pod go through a channel of an SSL2 interface to give it a certain colour? I'd suggest that probably those inputs are not super coloured anyway. I'm going to presume that they make those fairly natural-ish. So just put it through that and you're fine. I don't record with the USB personally because I use lots of different devices. So I have like a Steinberg UR RT4 as like my base for plugging stuff into. Lord of the Keynote asks, have I ever looked at any of the Synergy stuff? I have not. Jason Wade there in the comments has got some of that stuff and I think he really likes it. Any guitar amps that I would like to try out? I'm always fairly interested in trying out stuff. I'm interested in trying some sort of Marshall that I can do some A-B stuff with, either the Axe FX or the Helix or the HX Stomp. That's something that I'm interested in at the moment, although I don't think I'm likely to be gigging in a Marshall amp anytime soon. That's something that I've kind of got my eyes semi-open for. So like either like a Marshall JVM 410 was one of the things I've been looking at, or something JCM 800-ish. I've got my eyes on Chris, my friend Chris, has got a, what's it called? Marshall SV20, so I'm going to borrow that at some point and do some videos with it, I think. But I think amp-wise, I'm fairly happy with what I got. And I've kind of made peace with the idea that probably I'm more likely to be playing a modeler these days than an amp anyway. For videos mostly anyway. Because it seems like that's what people are more interested in when they come to my channel. I think it's nice to keep a toe in the amp world though. Guitar wise, the Tokai thing has got me thinking about trying some sort of Gibson Les Paul or something like that. Sacred Geometry asks, have I tried A-Bing the Friedman B? I don't have a Friedman amp, and those are crazy expensive. They're like $2.5 grand over here, maybe more. So that's one of those things which I really couldn't justify. You know, there's things like that. JTM 45, I think so. What I'd be doing for these kind of things, so I'd just use a load box anyway, so I wouldn't need the cheers Roma, catch you soon. Earplugs wouldn't be an issue. Again, it's one of those things where likelihood is I'm not gonna probably buy a piece of gear just for that. Synth stuff on Fractal in 2022, I imagine that could be something. How's my back? The walks did make it better. I've not been walking too much at the moment though. The JCM 804 by 12 worst bedroom amp setup ever. Fair. Damien, I really like the Grand Auditorium as an idea, and I like the way they work. The Yamaha, is it the LS folk size is the ones that I really like, or like the Martin OM. Those are the shapes that speak to me as a person who's not huge. I'm like 5'10 and a half or something. So I think a smaller one are cool. Smaller body shape, but not the smallest. I think Parlor to me seems aesthetically it doesn't quite look right to my eyes. So yeah, Grand Auditorium is the one for me, I think. Trevor asked, do I have any HX effects patches? Yes, I do have a few. Possibly a Victory Sheriff. They do offer a tube preamp. Yeah, I guess that was something that I thought about as I was picking up that Cornford. Like, it could be interesting to see if I could maybe loan a Victory and see if there are any sort of equivalent things to compare that they're making these days. Like if they made their version of like a Carrera or something. But yeah, there's not a massive list of music gear that I'm interested in checking out. The Pod 2.0 is not worth much resale wise. Hey Simon, yeah, I did have a carrier tone OTS on the channel for a bit. What do I use for IRs with tube amp and a load box? I just use the fractal load box is what I use, and then I go into my HX Stomp with the typical own hammer IR that I use for everything, and I find that works as good as anything else I've tried. Like I've tried a Captor X, and I've tried a Cab Zeus, and I've tried a Universal Audio Aux. I kind of like going into the HX Stomp. It's kind of cool. Even with the floor thing, I think the floor thing is probably worth a little bit more than the Pod 2.0. 2 volume pits, that's a cool idea actually, Tony, I think. What was it called again? Baron. Maybe I'll keep an eye out for one of them. I don't know, that could be a fun comparison. 2 amps that you can't get anymore. Cheers, Thiago. See you in a bit. I'm going to have to go in like a couple of minutes. Recommendation for a load box for the Mezzo Lone Star Special. Thought about Captor X, but is there something you'd recommend at a bit lower price? Not so much recording, just give me better volume control. Right. The thing is, the Captor X, I have to say this if I'm being honest, I don't think the attenuation on it is particularly good. So if you're looking for something to attenuate, I don't think the Captor X is a great option for that, to be honest. So I don't have any particular suggestion. The Sur-reactive load I know that Cliff at Fractal really likes. And obviously Cliff at Fractal recommends his own Fractal low box, which I've got here, which is my favourite thing that I've used of that lot. The Captor X was fine, but I don't think the attenuation part of it was particularly a strong point of it, if that's what you're looking for. But then, what else can do that? I don't know. The Universal Audio Aux, maybe, but that's expensive. But yeah, the Sur-reactive load, I think, is very well regarded. I think the Captor X also has that less than... Yeah, the Captor X, the 2 settings of attenuation are a little bit extreme, I think it'd be fair to say. Like, it's either almost off or sort of quite loud or off. I've not tried the Harley Benton Fusion 3, but I know people really like them. I'm drinking alcohol-free Merlot because Lenny's boss, my wife, who's leaving occasional comments in the chat, she died in like her mid-40s from being alcoholic, so since that I've not really drunk alcohol because I didn't find it particularly fun anymore. That's the reason for that, Chris. It's not particularly funny, but yeah, I feel like, yeah, it's not a bad product at all, but I feel like the attenuation on it is not exactly inspiring. I've had what's it called, the thingy bob, as an expensive way to do the job. What is it, the Fryette thingy bob? That's pretty full on. The Ethos drive basically is a Dumble-ish thing. In terms of modern tones, I wouldn't say you've not got crazy amounts of drive on it, so I think you could probably get close to like a Mezzo Boogie Mark III type tone with it, but not anything beyond that, not like a Mark IV or not anything particularly heavy, I don't think, unless you go into a more driven kind of amp anyway. Yeah, the Sur-reactive load, that doesn't do attenuation either, does it? Is that? I don't think that's... So Lucas is saying he had a Captor 8 -20 was good enough to play at home. So yeah, also I'm not disparaging Two Note products, all of them, or even the Captor X. I just thought, to be honest, the attenuating part of it was not exactly, I felt, it's like strong suit. But yeah, I think something like the Captor 8 might also be perfectly decent. I'm not one that particularly loves using apps either, so yeah. And also Second Note makes a fair point that the volume pedal and the effects loop of a crank amp, I don't feel like that's particularly much worse. Those are fairly specialized pedals anyway, Michael. I don't feel like there are many with the speaker emulation built in that way. So I'd maybe give the Ethos a try. Maybe with like an EQ or putting a pedal in front of it, you could get some things. I think a Revival Drive Hot Rod would maybe do some things that you might like if you're looking for a bit more modern kind of aggressive tones. The way that they describe it, Lucas, is they've got like club and something like that with the settings that they got on it. But yeah, right, I'm going to go and watch Boba Fett, I think, with Liana, if I can convince her to. Thank you everyone who's joined in and left a comment. Hopefully that wasn't a total waste of your time. And hopefully the stuff that I'm putting on the channel was not a total waste of your time. I guess you wouldn't continue to watch it if it was. But the idea is to try and make the world not a terrible place with this. So hopefully, like, some of it is okay. Let me know if you've got ideas for bits and pieces. So I think the Eric Johnson stuff was a comment that got chucked in. And what else? Some Julian Lage stuff, which is very difficult to transcribe, but I can try and do some of that maybe. But yeah, hopefully, yeah, this hasn't been a total waste of your time. Cheers to Polymath. And excuse me, that non-alcoholic wine has gone to my head. Play a little guitar before I go. Yeah, okay, what should we... It's not what I was trying, right? I'm trying this. Hey, what are you doing, Dusty Nuts? Michael Caine glasses. You were only supposed to... No. Right, anyway. Thank you very much for stopping by, everyone. Dusty Nuts, that's too much. But thank you. I will put that towards a massive pot of coffee. And, yeah. Thank you so much for everyone who watches this. Bollocks. Yeah, let me know if you've got ideas for bits and pieces that you want me to try. So I think, Dusty Nuts, you're saying synth stuff with the fractal. So I'm going to have to get my head around that interface, aren't I? But I'll try to do that. I'll endeavour to make something happen on that front. Thank you, everyone, and catch you in another video soon. Well, I'll do some videos tomorrow, obviously, but you already knew that. And, yeah, have a happy new year. I won't do a live stream tomorrow, but I will have videos tomorrow, obviously. And may even try and get like a tiny bit of gig footage, but I don't imagine it would be particularly inspiring. But yeah, cheers and see you soon. Cheers, Tone. Have a good new year. Cheers, Dusty Nuts. And wondering if you ever had a Wakefield. Yes, Stewie, I'm still going to do one of those videos. I wanted to try and get, well, I've got an idea for, I'm wearing the clue actually. I've got an idea for talking about that because there's another person that we could talk about the subject with, and we both did a similar thing and both ended up with a similar amount of money from doing it. So I will do that video. I just want to try and coordinate it with them. But there is still more downsizing that could be done. I feel like I've backslidden a little bit in that regard. But yeah, that video will be coming. And I can talk about some of that. But thank you everyone for checking in. And catch you in another video soon. See you in the new year. Cheers. Let's go watch some Star Wars.